My Gavan and Melonine, and well met indeed. I'm Arachir Galadurthan, and welcome back to Middle-earth as we continue on as the Woodland realm. Last time, annoyingly, we lost Aknoriorn because I pulled the general out one turn too soon, and it rebelled against us. So we're going to need to form an army to go and take the pathetic little piddlingy village of Aknoriorn, which is garnished, that's what you do with salad, which has gathered together a large defensive army. I mean, it's not that large, but comparatively. Vanafinden, this fellow here, who was guarding Karaz Galadon, has moved out and is going to take Amunlank through the diplomacy of gold. We are going to buy Guldur or Amunlank from Dale shortly. Our southern army, which I've kind of just accepted I'm going to keep that down there until it dies, is going to go and raid Mordor. So our first stop on the raid Mordor patrol is to go this way, which is stupid because now we're going to die there. Right, so that army's not going to do anything other than die, but we will rebuild and send a new one out once it does die. We'll keep the pressure on Mordor as the secondary project at the moment. Our primary project, of course, is in the north, where Witherboard is now being besieged, but Dane's Halls has only got 9 turns left until it falls to our power. But after this end turn, we'll be able to buy Amunlank, but we do need to do something about Aknoriorn, so we are going to have to send some troops out. And given that Haldir alone is the sole reason Dor Norhak doesn't rebel, he's got to stay there, I'm afraid. So that's where he will be residing. But you can head over, and Idrakan can train us some units for the meantime, I suppose. Do we need anything particularly fancy? I don't know, just some archers would be good. But we don't want to go below that 10,000 gold. So let's queue up all the archers and see what it does. So with all 3 of you, just at it. Yeah, there you go. So we'll wait for those 3.
Elves.
Although that's going to take 4 turns and then a 5th turn to cross the river. By that time, Dale might have already come and pounced on it. 4 turns for our elites. That's outrageous. So expensive. Alright, don't bother with them then. Let's go with your 3 turns. We can abide 3 turns, can't we? Nah, balls to it. Let's just train low tier trash and wait only a couple of turns. Ballaster crew, maybe? Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on. 2 ballasters. Oh, no, that takes us underneath. There we go. Can we get 1? Yes, we can. Alright, because we're going to buy Amunlank on the very next turn. But we do make 4,000, actually. But that little extra amount will be some leeway for us. Should we need further funds? Oh, I completely forgot about Witherboard. Bugger. Oh, well, if he attacks the settlement, that army will be part of it now. I don't think he's got enough forces to take Witherboard, but the army that you can see just to the east of your screen, on the right-hand side of your screen, standing next to the Moria army, they do have enough to take it. And if they come back and join in, then they will probably get Witherboard. But as I say, I just don't understand the AI's logic sometimes. Witherboard holds no benefit to the AI. It's almost as if the AI is not clever enough to realise that one of their own regions is under siege. And so when they're thinking, where should I expand now? Well, I want to expand to somewhere that borders one of my own regions. And what borders Dane's Halls? Well, we've got Anazanar and we've got Witherboard. And Witherboard has got a single garrison unit. And Anazanar has probably got far more. So I'm going to go for Witherboard. It's a smaller town, it's got less defences, and it's going to be easier for me to take, so I'm going to move in and I'm going to take that. All the while seemingly ignoring completely the fact that their main city is already under siege by an army that at the moment they themselves have acknowledged they cannot beat because they've not risen up to attack me because they know they can't beat me. And it's just an odd one. I just find it most bizarre. Whoa! Why on earth isn't... Oh, you went on the invasion, didn't you? Of course. Don't be silly, Gallo. Don't be silly. Use your brain. I apologise. In terms of DaC news, I haven't actually checked in on the changelog for the last week, really, actually. I was so invested in the Ardenayam and just trying to survive that I haven't thought about looking up what else might have gone into the mod recently. How have we got no money? Ah, someone must have built something. Somewhere's just built a thing. Alright, well, we'll see if we can get it for 9,000. It's over 9,000. But maybe. Alright, where's our diplomats?
Yes.
You're in the lower Vales. You can talk to Dale. And you're one of our... Oh, they're all good diplomats. Is 9,000 going to be enough for Amunlank?
It is good to see you, my
I'll give you
friend.
my map information.
How can we help?
I tell you what I can do is I can also pay them monthly, which is what we did last time, isn't it? Give me Amunlank back, please. Very demanding. Regular tribute. You can have... How much do we make? 4,000, don't we? Let's up the ante then. Let's give them 2,000 over the next 6 turns. Still very demanding. Ah, but they've accepted.
This seems... Well, that seemed fruitful.
Oh, and we got a huge garrison. Oh, glory be. And then with the general there, it finally likes us. Oh, fantastic news. So all 4 of you can go and join the reclamation of Akhnoriorn. That's not a problem. There we are. And then we probably don't actually need the army that you're training. Definitely don't need the ballista. Get rid of that. No, we'll take them anyway. They're already halfway down, aren't they? So keep him there just in cases. Perfect. I mean, like his ours. Now, we don't need either of those either. They're not giving free upkeep, so don't sit in there. And it's ours! And this time we will hold it. So as soon as you can, get a studio. Anything we don't need here. No, we want the stables because it gives us the Arthirochon, our finest horse unit. A glorious force. We've also got a guard barracks up. Is that our best? Or is there one above it? No, there's one above it. There's the army barracks. And there's one above the range as well. So the archery range and the barracks can be upgraded. We've got a dwarven armourer here, which is, I believe... no, there is one above, so that's just a normal blacksmith. But for the dwarves, it's called a dwarven armourer. I've mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. The reason it lists all 4 of these is because that was something I implemented shortly before I stopped modding, actually, whereby each tier of the armourer now ensures it gives the previous upgrade tier as well. And if you're wondering why do you need to do that, Gallo, because if a unit can upgrade to the 3rd tier of armour, for example, so if a unit can get to Elven Chainmail, and then you build the 4th tier, which gives Elven Plate, then your Elven Chainmail unit won't be able to be upgraded because it can't be upgraded to the 4th tier, which means it just simply then can't use this blacksmith. And it was just a minor oversight. So by listing all 4 tiers, any unit that can be upgraded to 1, 2, 3 or 4 can be upgraded here. Whereas if a unit could only get to tier 1, for example, and you'd built the armourer which has tier 4, again, it doesn't act retrospectively. Which is an oversight, I think, on the game's part, to be honest, because that just doesn't make any sense. And I think it's just one of those bugs that they just never fix. Because you would think that a unit that can only upgrade to tier 4 would easily be able to upgrade at a tier 5 blacksmith because it's a tier 5 blacksmith. It is inherently better. But it never worked that way, so it was always a buggy problem. Right, you are all going to come with me and join the army. Oh, I tell you what, why don't you go north, actually, to Witherboard? What's the fastest way to get there? It's 2 turns that way. No, go with the safety of the forest, because we don't own Erebor and they might attack us. So you guys go that way and go and join that army up there. How are we doing for money? Oh, we do make money. I'm happy to pay Dale for the remainder of the time for the next 6 turns, because we don't really need that money. That's not a problem for us. We don't need to do anything else, though. We're just waiting for Dane's Halls to die, really. Unfortunately, the garrison, of course, is never affected by besieging the settlement, so the garrison will be as large as it always is, so we can't assault it on that ground. But anyway, on the point of modding, I will make a point before the live stream on Saturday morning, which will be, again, the Woodland realm. So that will be 11 o'clock this coming Saturday morning, British summer time. Just type that into Google and it will tell you what time you are. And then you can come and watch along and post your questions. If you have any questions, catch up on a live rendition of me failing at the game. Although we're not, are we? We're winning, let's be honest. Let's not beat around the bush. Aha, the expected attack. But we do not stand alone, and we get an opportunity to see Dorwinion in action. Captain Viduhar, who abandoned us at the Black Gate, now comes to assist Herion, the gatekeeper, who took the gate. That's the unique epithet you get when you take the Black Gate. There's Captain Odoacer as well, 395, 2,000 units, but oh dear, that's all Dorwinion early tier trash. Particularly the Brown, the Vineyard, they are just garbage. They won't do anything at turn 117, I'm surprised they've got them. The Thorn units are good, but at this late stage, we risk going up against, indeed, a full army of Uruks, who are far better than Thorn. Black Uruks, 8 attack, 4 charge, 16 defense. These don't seem to be upgraded at all, so those are vanilla stats. So 8, 4, 16 versus our Thorn Blades, 7, 4, 10. So 6 less defense, same charge, and 1 less attack. And their attack is bolstered by the experience, isn't it? Or is it every 3 points there the attack grows? In any event, we are going to fight this because, as I say, I'm expecting this army just to die so that we can replace it with a more elite one. We did what we needed to over here, which is attract Mordor's attention. But we have rather thrown Dorwinion in at the deep end, and I feel like we owe it to them to stand by their side. I'll stand by your side. And so we will. We will fight with them. We will die with them if necessary. One hopes not, but probably on the cards. We are grossly outnumbered. And of course, we are coming in as reinforcements, so we get to see Dorwinian's foolish attempt at winning. Oh, they've got fully upgraded on their Thorn crossbows, though. They've gone to the gold. So they've got the Elven armor upgrade on those. Oh, only on a few, though. Ah, there's the Thorn Guard. I know that the texture quality on the sword is low, but when you are zoomed out, it looks really cool to have a sort of Naginata-style weapon. I always liked the Naginata. I thought it was a very cool-looking weapon. I saw one, actually, in the when the British Museum did a temporary exhibition on Japanese warfare. My friend and I went when we were in secondary school. We went up into London alone and went to see it, and it was very cool. I don't speak with him anymore, though. Never spoke to him the minute we left secondary school. Alas, much is the way with many people from secondary school. Anyway, we don't need to worry about that. We need to worry about Mordor. So as soon as the army moves in, if we could all move up the hill, and then we can go and assist. Oh, they have got a unit of trolls. And Olokai, not just any old troll. The beast troll. Olokai literally means troll folk. So to call them trolls is accurate, of course, but calling like Olokai trolls, for example, is tautological. You're using the word troll twice. But it's interesting that they get specifically referenced as the Olokai when they're just essentially just why aren't all trolls called Olog is what I'm trying to get the point across, but making things talking off the top of my head is not a strength I'm blessed with, unfortunately. Despite the now, what, 7 or 8 years of this, I still have not mastered the ability to coherently and swiftly create a point. Although, actually, I'm doing myself a disservice there. I think YouTube has thoroughly improved my public speech skills and my just general sentence creation. But a problem that I frequently have, and has always plagued me, is I constantly forget the words that I mean. I know that they're in there somewhere, but I often, like just then when I said often in a really weird way, because I couldn't quite remember what I was trying to say, and my mouth knew what it was trying to do, but my brain hadn't caught up yet, so it came out with the word often rather than often. It's a real problem. But anyway, I'm talking over this because we're obviously just waiting to get into position, and I don't want to time 6 it too quickly, because we need to react to where the main enemy army goes. But those trolls on that corner are going to give us such a problem. We've got a fair amount of archers, but a lot of them have next to no units in the company. And what I would like to do is get those archers up here, really, and hit those trolls. But I think that's just a bit too close for comfort. But we've got to deal with the trolls, because they are the biggest thing that will stop us. Sprint through, melee sprint through. The archers have all paused. They're going to give those Black Uruks one full volley. That'll stun them for a brief time, which buys you enough time to run through, I think, melee units. Let's go, let's go. Yes, there we go. Alright. Archers. No. Sometimes pressing the ×6 can be so janky. Right, if you can all move out down there. Are Dorwinian running away yet? No, I don't think so. Oh, yeah, look, they've been decimated. This is already over, isn't it? 41% of our team has died. Yeah, this is definitely over. I don't think we should even bother staying to try and fight this. We might be able to actually run away. I think we should. There's no point sacrificing our lives for nothing. Let's go.
Defeat seems almost certain.
If we're going to sacrifice our lives, let's at least get something out of it. Like, let's take Calenhad, or let's take down, I don't know, Caer Andros, or something like that, rather than just dying in this plain here because Dorwinian brought basically brought a knife to a gunfight. They brought trash to an elite late-game army. They're not going to do anything, and we're not going to go down with that ship. Dorwinian will return home today with tales of our cowardice and treachery as we've left them to their fate. But any commander knows that this battle was over long before it even begun. I had hoped we might be able to salvage something from it, but Dorwinian just stood there and took the charge of Mordor. If they'd had a general, it might have been different, but Thorn unit's morale is very low. One unit seems to still be fighting.
Our allies
Oh no,
have fled the field like
they're just running.
cowards.
There we are. Everyone's fled now, so it should end.
We've been dealt a stinging defeat.
Oh, the generals died. There we are. Oh, so we only lost 73. That's alright. We can deal with that. Oh dear. Viduhar and Odoacer lost basically everything. 500 orcs fell though. How many did we kill? 117 was that? 117. We killed almost a quarter of what Darwinian did, and we were in the fight for half, maybe even a quarter of the time they were. If our armies could have been standing next to each other, we might have done an awful lot better. We were never going to win that, but I just don't want my elven army to die out here. I mean, no, let me rephrase that because I do. The elven army here, I'm going to keep out until they die, as I've already mentioned. I might maybe send the generals home so that they can command the next army. But the units, I just want them all. We'll just try and do some damage to Mordor. And then we will build a bespoke, elite army to come down. But we need to get that army together swiftly. In fact, actually, I think it probably is better to send that army home now and just retrain it. We'll purge it of any low-tier trash and just send it back because Mordor have just retaken Dantalad with the huge armies returning from the invasion that they sent them off on.
Elven warriors.
How long will... Oh, Bree's under siege. How long are you going to hold 2 turns? We've got to attack him now, so we'll do that in a second as well. Construction complete. Eminu Fuin, Erinthalen, Lim here. Oh, Lim here got a barracks. Nice. Well done. And Ostingale, communal farming. You're going for a master builder's hall. Erinthalen, you're going for a leatherworker and you've built it. That's good. And Eminu Fuin, you're also going for a leatherworker and you've also managed to build it. So the large sum of money that we got for sacking the Black Gate has already been used. But that's okay. Essentially, we did trade the Black Gate for Amun-Lank, which is a very favourable trade because we can hold Amun-Lank. It gives 2,000 gold coins, which means it's actually paying for the Dale tribute itself. So we don't need to worry about that for a while. Oh dear, I missed the thing. You've got enough there to take that, so just maintain the siege. And you can join up with these. Right, we will bring that army home then. So as I say, I'm not bothered about the low tier trash or the Tuar Rainior because they are they can be retrained, but 37 they're just not worth having. If they're not a general, they're not worth having in my opinion. You can be retrained and you can be retrained. But the Tuar and the low tier units I am going to leave behind. Well, I'm probably just going to disband them actually. All of you can go back. Well, I'll tell you what, take the 2 Tuar to Dor Norhak and you can just form a garrison there and then you 4 can just be disbanded. But go and see if you can't take Calenhad. It might have a little to no garrison. So take the 71 Woodland Sentinels as well. And Melderon. You're only a 1-star general, and we've got generals coming out of our ears. So I'm sorry, old bean, but you've been offered up as a sacrifice. Right, so send Melderon out. See if we can't just disrupt the stronghold at Calenhad, and if we can't hit Mordor there with that minor army. And the rest of you can go home and retrain. You know, Draikhan and Karas Galadon. Oh no, Karas Galadon's not set up for war at all. At all. There's the forest stables. That's what Amun-Lank's got. Now, if Amun-Lank had our culture, it'd be a brilliant recruitment hub. But of course, it has no elven culture. 30% Northman and 70% Melkor's Shadow. Oh, we didn't finish looking if there's anything we can destroy here, did we? We don't really need the sheep farming. You can definitely get rid of that. We don't want the sheep farming because it's already got 15,909 people. And once it reaches that 18,000, it's going to start to hate us even more because Squalor will become an even bigger thing. It's already 40% of the unrest. This is what I mean. Somewhere like Amun-Lank, you just want to kill off the people. You do not want them hating you because there's so many of them. And killing them off would reduce Squalor, it would reduce their hatred of us, it would solve so many of our problems. But that is for another time. For now, Captain Gudrun is to die. I'm surprised he's even decided to fight. Oh, there's a diplomat in his army. Why have you got a diplomat linked in with your army? Snow Orc Scouts. So it's archers versus archers. Archers versus archers. We will give as good as we get.
Send them back to their underworld.
And we will send them back to their underworld. Orcs don't really have an underworld though, do they? Orcs, unfortunately, are another massive concept in Lord of the Rings that suffers under the weight and ever-arching bearance of time. Because Tolkien flips and flops throughout the storyline as to how he has decided orcs came into being, and thereby fleshing out their endgame as well, if you will. Because, of course, we are all very familiar with the theory that orcs are created from elves. So Melkor convinced some of the elves right back at the dawn of time or not the dawn of time, but rather the dawn of elven time. Melkor walks amongst the elves when they've awoken at the paradise of Cuavernin. He walks amongst them and he convinces many of them to join with him and to follow him away and to not walk with the Valar. Although in truth, I believe Melkor is the first to find them, isn't he? And he starts convincing them long before Arome finds them, and then it's Arome's decision to move them to protect them. By that point, Melkor's already snaffled some away. I think it's that way around. But anyway, the finer points of the story, obviously, you can research. But Melkor comes to the elves at the very beginning of their history. He convinces some of them to join him, he takes them away, and he converts them into orcs through torture and other nefarious dark magic means. Now, this implies, the problem with this creation theory, is that therefore implies that orcs are still elves. Tortured, twisted, and changed from their original forms, but elves nevertheless. And thereby, they would have the same endgame. They would go to the halls of Mandos, where their actions would be judged, and then after a period of time spent punished for those actions, or punished isn't the right word, you stay in the halls of Mandos to serve out a time limit that has been given to you by Mandos after he's judged you. So he will say, oh, you've been a very good elf, you can go to Valinor immediately, and you'll spend no time in the halls of Mandos. You'll queue there for a little while, you'll take your number, when you get called into the office, you'll go and speak with him. And he'll judge your deeds on a book, I imagine. And then he'll give you a little tick box, you walk past him, and boom, there you go, you're into Aman. You got your body back, you live out the rest of your life in this paradise land with all the other elves singing, dancing, and doing what elves would do. Now, if you go into Mandos' room and you've done some bad deeds, he might say, oh, you've done some bad deeds. So I'm afraid I can't let you go for, 1,000 years. So then you are doomed to be trapped in the halls of Mandos for 1,000 years in a sort of swirling, soul-like form of yourself. And then eventually, once you've served your time, you will also pass into Aman. So no matter how bad your deeds are, you will usually... I don't think there is any noted case by Tolkien where an elf was never actually given back full command of their body and allowed to live amongst the elves of Valinor. Even Feanor, the great big bad elf, depending on who you ask, would almost certainly have been allowed back into Valinor as well. So if the orcs are originally elves, then their deeds of course are bad, but that's by the by. If they are elves, then regardless of how Melkor has changed them, surely they would go to Valinor, they would go to the halls of Aman, to Mandos. And but that, of course, doesn't really fly, and Tolkien never mentions that happens. And then in time, as I understand, Tolkien then came to the idea that actually orcs were created from humans, which would give them the same end game as humans. And as any of you who have studied Lord of the Rings, even partially, basically anyone who's read the Silmarillion, will know that humans do not have a quantified or a detailed afterlife. It is a fundamental feature of humanity that they don't know what happens to them after death. And the elves indeed even call it the gift of humanity, or the gift of man, I think they call it. In that the elves know that they're going to live forever. They will never die. If they die in their physical form in Middle-earth, then their soul, their fear, without an R, goes back to Aman, stays in the halls of Mandos, and we've just covered that. But humans don't have that. Humans just die. And Tolkien, he specifically left it vague. That is not something that he just never managed to finish. He deliberately leaves it so that humans go somewhere that no one knows. It's hypothesized that maybe they return to be with their master, Eru Ilúvatar, that they return to be a part of him, because everything in the universe comes from Eru Ilúvatar. So maybe they just return to be of one mind with him. That we do not know. But anyway, the humans don't go anywhere, which is a better ending for the orcs, because then he doesn't need to explain where orcs go. He can simply just say orcs, like humans, don't go anywhere, because they are humans. Or rather, they go somewhere that we don't know. But that, of course, he didn't fully get round to that theory before he died. There's also the third option, which is that orcs are and were actually created by Melkor himself. But this, of course, flies in the face of his earlier writings, whereby he specifically mentions that nothing can create life save for Eru. And the most concrete example we have of that are, of course, the dwarves. The dwarves were created by Aule, and whilst he was actually able to give them life, Eru Ilúvatar commanded that he kill them, because Eru's the only one who can give full life. And when Aule then went to kill them, the dwarves quake in fear, and Eru says, basically it's a test. Like, because you can't be a god without testing your subjects, can you? Because why not? And when he sees that Aule is willing to kill his children in his name, he lets them live. Our plans to go to Calenhad have fallen right flat, because that is going to be a massive defeat.
There are too many. We'll need reinforcements.
So Melkor can't create life because it flies in Tolkien's teachings, in Tolkien's earlier writings. But then, that said, as described in the story of the dwarves, Aule is able to give life to the dwarves. No, of course. No. That's the moment when Aule realizes that Eru has actually given them life. So Aule creates the dwarves, but can't give them life. So they are, in essence, they are small statuettes that he's created that look like dwarves. Don't have much diminishes. Did you die? No. And then Eru Iluvatar comes to him and says, you can't create life, and I don't want you trying, so please kill those things that you've created. And then Aule goes to kill them, and then that's when he notices that they cower in fear, which means Eru has breathed life into them, and he stops, and then the whole story ends. La 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 la. So nothing can actually create life save for Eru Iluvatar himself. But, so that was the third theory, which would have broken that earlier writing that nothing could. It would mean that Melkor could. The other thing that, and if we're talking about evil creatures and we're not sure how they're created, then the other one that is a big, how on earth did you come into existence, are trolls. And again, they follow a simple, I believe the universally agreed upon creation, because again, nothing but Eru can create life. The universally agreed creation is that they are twisted ents. So in the same way that orcs are twisted humans or elves, depending on which one you read, the trolls are twisted ents, but I don't think, again, that one isn't actually set in stone. And again, the trolls are just fall foul of Tolkien running out of time, really. And if I were to hypothesize, whilst we end the turn again and wait for Dane's Halls to fall, if I were to hypothesize, I would suggest that Tolkien wanted and needed a various array of enemies. So trolls and orcs and wargs and wolves and dragons and worms with a Y, sorry. So he needed this grand array of enemies. And at the point that he wrote The Hobbit and the point that he wrote The Lord of the Rings, the wider universe still had 40 plus years of development to come. And so I do wonder, and now I've not studied extensively the timeline of the creation of Lord of the Rings, and that's where diehards will now flood the comment section and crap all over me, because those that will understand this better, and heaven forbid someone misinform other people through misinformation of their own. But anyway, before I just crap on those people that hate me so much, I assume, in my theory, that Tolkien needed all of these enemies, so he just put them into the story. So, and then at a later time, when he was coming to flesh out his world, he then thought, oh, let's give an actual creation story to everything, not just my elves and my humans who I love. Let's give it to every creature under the sun. And so at that point, he then started needing stories for how the orcs came to being, how did the trolls come into being, how did the wargs come. Because he's hamstrung, as it were, by his nothing but Eru can create life theory. Oh, look, we've got Anduin here supporting us. Why would they sally out now when they are grossly outnumbered? That's moronic. Anyway, so that's my theory, as I think he needed the enemies first, so he put them in the story, and then later on he was like, and now I need a creation story for them, and essentially he died before he gave one, which is a very short way of saying what I was trying to say. This is why in lore videos I always write a script, because otherwise how rambly was that last 10-15 minutes? To get across a very, very simple point, in truth. But we got there in the end, but how circuitous was the route that we took, I tell thee. Very. But anyway, there we are. I always would have preferred if the orcs had been created by Melkor. I think that's the easiest way. If Melkor could have found some sort of way to create life himself, or at least some sort of mockery of life, I think that's the easiest way. Because how do we also explain the dragons and the Balrog and the Bulldogs? Although the Bulldogs are a spirit form, ignore that. And the Balrogs are spirit form as well, so ignore that. But how do we explain the dragons and the worms and all creatures like that? We can't really, can we? Because Eru didn't create them, and Melkor doesn't have the power to create them. So how did they come into being? Unless it's all a grand lie, and Eru Ilúvatar all along has always been the bad guy, and he created this playground of good and evil just because he was bored. So he thought, well, let's create a race of people who are going to be my chosen ones, and I'll tell them all along they're my chosen ones, and I'll even create these like angelic spirits to watch over them. But then I will sow the world with thousands upon thousands of evil creatures that want nothing more than to kill them, and we'll see how they get on. Maybe that was the plan all along. Cavalry. Sprint over there, then sprint over here, then sprint over there. You're going to fire, aren't you? None of you are going to run away. No, of course, elves don't start in skirmish mode. Something we need to get used to. Elves don't start in skirmish mode like low-tier human units do. But thank you for coming along to my talk about the origin of evil in Middle-earth. To be honest, my theory about how the orcs and the trolls were put into the story and then they needed fleshing out later, I think that applies to basically everything, if I am honest. Because Tolkien's true love, as we all know, is languages. And the one thing that he poured an awful lot of time into creating are, of course, the languages. Sindarin is very fleshed out. Quenya is hugely fleshed out. You can write in Tengwar script, in 2 different types of Tengwar script are the main ones. There's Beleriand font. I can't remember what the other one's called, actually. Oh, Tetar form, sorry. So there's Beleriand and Tetar. Tetar has diacritics, which are little accents that go above the letters, denoting vowel sounds and other anomalous sounds like double consonants, things like that. And the Beleriand mode is similar to how we write in everyday life if you write with the Latin alphabet, in that it's letter, 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 and those 4 letters make a word, whereas in Tengwar Tetar form, it'll be letter with a diacritic, and those 2 symbols make your 4-letter word. And he fleshed that out massively. You can entirely write completely in Tetar form. All of the requirements are there. You can almost speak Quenyan to a fluent degree. It's very, very fleshed out. You can't with Sindarin. You just can't speak Sindarin fluently. You can get the odd phrase in Sindarin, but that's the most you're ever going to get. Which is interesting, isn't it? Because in the actual story, Quenyan is hardly ever used. Almost every elf in the primary stories of the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and indeed in the Silmarillion actually, most of them speak Sindarin. Most of the place names in the world are Sindarin. Quenyan is... Oh, it's just frozen. It's too disappointed at me going into... I've never had an actual freeze before. What on earth is happening? Well, it's going to end after this battle anyway, so I'm just going to take this as an opportunity to end. I've never had a freeze like this before. I don't know why it's done that. But anyway, we're going to end there. Because otherwise I'll just have to load it out and do loads of stuff. So, that is going to be where I end. Do tune in on Saturday morning then for the live stream. Apologise, this one has also come to an abrupt end. I don't think it's my recording software, because that's still happily churning away. No, it is the game. Something in the game's broken. But anyway, until we speak again, dear friends, have a wonderful few days. The Battle of Middle-earth episode will be coming out on Sunday, so there will be a second one of those. The recording schedule this week was all moved asunder. But anyway, until we speak again, Navarna den Pedamad Melodine, and farewell.